Interesting. So as you can see, it's a very successful philosophy. So today we're gonna see what is this design thinking about and why should we care about it. So what is design thinking? So before we go into this, let me ask you another question, which is, do you recognize these two pictures? Yes, you can type in the chat. Yes, okay. So if I ask you, which one do you think is more complex? What would you say? Interesting. I put these pictures here because the Golden Bridge, when it was built, was one of the most complicated things that man had built ever. And it was a wonder of, it was built about 75 years ago, and it was amazing. But if you compare it to an app or any of the app we use today, if you count, for example, the number of components of each project, apps have way more different and unique components than the Golden Bridge. If you think about it, the Golden Bridge has a lot of similar components, trusses, cables, bolts. It has a lot of bolts, but they're always the same kind of bolt, and the way we put them is always the same. See, and the bricks, the same. All the bricks are very similar. So if you think about the number of different components, about the relationship between these components, in number of relationships, a number of different components, any app today is way more complex than the Golden Bridge, even though the size is very different. And so we live in this world of, especially in software, of complexity. And what does that mean? That means that the old thinking that we all have been taught at the school, which is the engineering thinking, which was very successful, very successful to build bridges, which was about, okay, you have an idea, you want to build a bridge, fine, you make a plan for the bridge, right? You plan it, and then, well, you start building it, right? You build it, and then you test it, right? And then you evaluate it. Very nice. Right? That's the typical engineering thinking. And because engineering has been so successful in our lives, especially civil engineering, when software appeared in the world, what did we do? We applied the same, we copy-paste the same ideas from engineering to software. Well, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that they are very different problems. Like, as we just saw, software, the complexity of software is very different from engineering projects. Engineering projects might be huge, you need to plan months in advance, and so on. But the complexity doesn't compare to the thousands of relationships, the fragility of the systems that we face today in software. Imagine today a simple website relies on so many stacks of technology, versions of software, and so on. Any of you who is a developer knows these bugs, right? And so that means that we cannot apply the same thinking that made us successful to this new world of complexity. There's another interesting thing about complexity, and those of you who know Agile know this, is that in a complexity world, there is so much knowledge that we need to know in order to have a successful project. In other words, we need to know so many things about the relationship between the components of our project that it is impossible for a single person, the boss, to know everything. And you cannot be a good boss if you don't know anything. In other words, when you are in a complex situation like software or websites or e-commerce, the idea of having a hierarchy doesn't work very well, and that's what Agile preaches, and that's why Agile is so successful, because Agile has recognized, yes, in a complexity situation, the boss doesn't know everything, so the role of the boss has to change. And so in design thinking, we have the very similar situation. So yes, the Uber app is orders of magnitude